Alrighty, so today we're going to do the season preview of the Colorado Rapids, and it's been a busy offseason for the Colorado Rapids. In fact, I'm actually glad that I am doing this season preview right now instead of maybe a couple of weeks ago, because they made a lot of moves in these past week or two so, and that it would have just completely changed in terms of what I viewed this team and what's the expectation and what we expect this team to have. But last season, there is no doubt that it was a big disappointment for the Colorado Rapids. I mean, this team for the past couple of seasons looked like they were on the right track with the way that they have made consecutive playoffs coming off of the previous season in 2021, which was a franchise high of them finishing at the top spot of the Western Conference, and people thinking, well, with a decent team and also having probably one of the best head coach in the league in Robin Fraser, things were going to go well for this Rapids team, right? Well, no. They instead finished with an 11, 10, and 13 record and finished with 43 points. They finished 10th that season and did not make it to the playoffs. But prior to that, they did finish with a 17, 10, and 7 record and finished with 61 points, which was good for the top spot in the Western Conference. But unfortunately, despite getting a bye in the first round of the playoffs, they did lose to the Portland Timbers at home in a heartbreaking way, where they gave up a goal in the 90th minute for the Timbers to move on into the next round. Now, in the previous season, they snapped their playoff drought that lasted for about 5 seasons, going back to 2016, with them making the playoffs, finishing in 5th place, though it was in a very controversial way, because if you know what happened in that COVID-shortened season, we talk about how in terms of how you make it to the playoffs, it was actually points per game that actually counted in terms of how a team can make it to the playoffs. And the Rapids were in the center of the controversies around that, because they basically had about a month of time where they did not play at all, because most of their players got COVID, and that, because of the fact that they just didn't enough in terms of their points per game, despite the fact that they played by far the fewest amount of games out of any team during that season. They made it to the playoffs with an 8-4-6 record and finished with 28 points. I swear, that is definitely going to go down as the lowest amount of point a team can make it to the playoffs. Like, I don't think we will ever see a team to make it to the playoffs with that low amount of points, and let alone finishing 5th in the Western Conference. But unfortunately, they did lose to Minnesota United in the first round of the playoffs. And then before that, it was really kind of the dark period for the Colorado Rapids. They finished 9th in the previous season, though, despite that dark period, during that season, after they realized that Anthony Hudson wasn't the answer, they did at least got to a respectable 9th place finish with a 12, 6, and 16 record, and did finish a point lower than what they did this year with 42 points, but they did not make it to the playoffs. And then in 2018, it was a disastrous season, finishing 11th in the standing with an 8, 7, and 19 record, and finished with 31 points, and obviously did not make it to the playoffs. Now, in terms of some of the transfer that they made this offseason, like I said, they've been very active in the transfer market, especially the last couple of weeks. But obviously, the biggest signing that they've made this offseason has to be getting Kevin Cabral from the LA Galaxy. And we'll definitely get to talk about Kevin Cabral when we get to the big question, because, yeah, this is definitely a massive gamble for the Colorado Rapids, getting a guy that for many people know that he is probably one of the most snake-bitten number 9 in the league, and that, Galaxy fans, not only the fact that they're relieved, the fact that they finally got rid of that awful DP contract, and also, not only mention the fact that he's snake-bitten, but that he is probably sitting on one of the worst contracts in the league last season. There's definitely that uncertainty of whether or not if a change of scenery could actually help him. But besides that, they also signed another DP player in Andres Maxo. Now, he is going to be a center back that they signed him on a DP contract. And as I mentioned before, this is definitely a big risk for the Colorado Rapids in terms of signing a defender on a designated player contract. Normally, my kind of unwritten rule in MLS, or just kind of the unofficial unwritten rule of MLS, the fact that you don't want to spend a designated player slot on a defender or a goalkeeper. Well, mostly on a goalkeeper because it's a cardinal sin to basically spend a DP spot on a goalkeeper in this league. But you don't want to do it for a defender unless you really need it. And when you look at this Rapids team, I mean, yes, the back line, of course, is something that they desperately need because last season that back line was absolutely horrendous and what was one of the big reasons why they had a bad season. But again, they better hope that he is going to turn out well because, when you're locked into that DP contract and especially you're a defender, I think there's definitely more higher expectation that is going to be have to reach, and that usually when you see players that have signed a DP contract and they're a defender, I haven't seen a lot of them that turns out to be bona fide star and bona fide rock in the back line for their respective teams. So we'll see whether or not that is going to follow the trend, or maybe this is just one of those rare situations where the Rapids got it right in terms of signing a DP defender. They also got Connor Rowland from Wolverhampton Wanderers, so he reunites with his former teammate Jack Price in the midfield. And then they, of course, bring in a left back in Alex Jersbach because Lucas Estevez, of course, no longer with this team after the Rapids elect to not buy him permanently. They also got two players in the draft in Oliver Simili and Moses Bombito in the draft. They also get Cole Bassett back into the team after doing his time in the Netherlands. Did not quite worked out, and that I think that's a big ad for the Rapids. Even though it's not really a new signing, Cole Bassett, he definitely brings a lot to the table for this Rapids attack. And I thought last season there were times that I feel they definitely miss a caliber player like him. So yeah, it's good that he, of course, is back with this team. And then, as I mentioned in yesterday FC Cincinnati video, they also bring in Calvin Harris, not the Scottish DJ, but the soccer player himself, and we'll see how he's going to fit in with the Colorado Rapids. And also a guy that mostly, just like during his time with Cincinnati, I think he's going to be more used as a depth piece on the wing area. Now, in terms of some of the player that is no longer with this team and some of the key departure, there are a couple of key departure. One of the big key departure is Jerzy Zardes moving on from the Colorado Rapids. And again, this is going to be something that, again, as I'll talk about the Kevin Cabral situation, this is why, a lot of Rapids fans are a little bit uncertain because, Jerzy Zardes, when he was brought in from the Colorado Rapids, I know he kind of got off to a slow start, but then when he kind of got going, he started to look like the Jerzy Zardes that we've seen a couple of years ago with Columbus, scoring goals at will. And I thought this would have been a good option for the Rapids to maybe just kind of sign him permanently, but no, instead now he's gone to Austin FC, and the Rapids decided to not re-sign him. They also lost Philip Maika, Clint Irvin, who went to Minnesota United, Drew Moore, Lucas Estevez, as I mentioned before, decided not to sign him on a permanent deal. And then they also lost Felipe Gutierrez, who, last season, as much as it was kind of an interesting story seeing Felipe Gutierrez back in MLS. I mean, remember how he used to be one of the one of the best midfielder in this league, and at least on the attacking midfielder for Sporting KC. Yeah, time has definitely changed. He has definitely took a huge nose dive in his career and his quality compared to what happened a couple of years ago with Sporting KC, and he didn't really fare any better with the Colorado Rapids. Didn't really play that well to a way where the Rapids feel like they want to bring him back. But now looking at some of the big question for this team and the free big question for the Colorado Rapids, it's got to be big question in terms of the back line. So this back line that they have for this upcoming season, I'm assuming it's probably gonna be not the same as the one last season. I mean, I think besides maybe Keegan Rosenberry in that right back position and Danny Wilson as one of the center back, I'm assuming Andres Maxo will partner with Wilson in that back line. And then on the left back position, I think Alex Jerbach will be the one that will play in that spot. I mean, some will say maybe Sam Nicholson will be there. I think it's probably going to be Jerbach. And this is nothing to disrespect Sam Nicholson. I mean, in fact, I'm actually like Sam Nicholson. I mean, as a former Loons player, he is definitely a decent kind of utility kind of type of player, but he's definitely not starter quality, at least for this Colorado Rapids team. So yeah, it's kind of almost a new shape back line, and that, we'll see how well it's going to do, whether if it's going to work out, because, as I said, this back line last season, it was a liability, and it's hard to believe how much regression they shown last season with giving up goals at will, and that, knowing the fact that the Rapids realized that, they addressed it this offseason, and now let's see if it's going to get better getting into this upcoming season. And in some way, they kind of had to, because obviously, I think the other big question for this team is going to be on the attacking end. But before we talk about that, we got to, of course, go back to the Kevin Cabral situation. Again, this really feels like a massive gamble for the Colorado Rapids. It's a very high risk, kind of high reward situation of the way that Kevin Cabral really didn't pan out for the LA Galaxy. But as I've said before, a change of scenery is something that every striker maybe need to do, and that they might turns out to be well. And I've also heard that people have compared this situation like the Julian Carranza situation, where, Carranza didn't quite work out with Inter Miami, but then he decided to join the Philadelphia Union and got some good coaching to get the best out of him from Jim Curran. And look what he turns out to be. He turns out to be an absolute monster as part of that free-headed monster that the Philadelphia Union has. Though, again, in this situation, the difference between that and this situation is that at least Carranza has been able to have guys that is surrounded him that can feed him the ball in terms of scoring the goals. I don't know if that's going to be the same case for Kevin Cabral. I mean, yes, there's some good talented player on the attacking end that can feed him the ball too, but again, I just think, just look at the quality that Kevin Cabral was. I mean, even though Julian Carranza was bad at Inter Miami, he was not as bad as what Kevin Cabral was doing the Galaxy, where you can clearly see he was a player that looked like a broken cell, looked like a guy that just have zero confidence whatsoever. And that, again, it's going to be a bit of a risk, and if it turns out well, and if Robin Fraser somehow find a way to get the best of him, I think, as I said, some people compare this situation to the Julian Carranza situation, and in some way it could be, but like I said, it's a big gamble, especially I think the other difference is that, the Union, of course, was able to get Carranza on a $500,000 general allocation money move, or actually no, they got him on a loan deal, and then they paid $500,000 for that. In this case, the Rapids didn't even think about loaning Cabral. They just simply decided to buy out his contract. And again, if he turns out to do well, then this could be just like the Carranza situation. But if it doesn't turn out to be well, this will just add to the numerous failure of some of the head scratching transfer that the Colorado Rapids have done in recent years. I mean, they have done some really bad transfer, and that this maybe could be one of them if Kevin Cabral doesn't live up to the potential that the Galaxy thought that he was going to be when they signed him on a DP contract a couple of years ago. And then, of course, speaking of on the attacking end, the goal scoring. Again, last season, besides this team didn't have good defensive record, the goal scoring last season was kind of a bit of an issue. Now, a lot of that was kind of maybe not. I mean, the goal scoring, I would say that when you look at the stats, it's not as bad as it is, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that Diego Rubio was having a career year, and he was single-handedly carrying this team. Now, I'm not sure if he can repeat the same feat that he did last season, and if he can, who's going to be the guy that will step up? And again, many people will point out to Kevin Cabral, but what about other guys on this team like Jonathan Lewis that also need to step up? Like Jonathan Lewis, as I mentioned, it's been just a disastrous last couple of seasons for him. A guy that, once thought that he was going to be a U.S. men's national team prodigy, to be a player that now have just single-handedly looked like a shell of his old self. So you got to say he's looking to redeem himself and looking to have a bounce-back season. But just in general, this team, they need to take the goal-scoring load off of Rubio, and it's going to be interesting to see who exactly is going to be the case. And then, of course, the other big question for this team, and the bonus big question, is the fact that can Will and Yarbrough have a bounce-back season? Now, Obviously, we have heard the Colorado Rapids have thought about replacing their starting goalkeeper this offseason. I believe they were getting that Austrian international goalkeeper from Rennes a couple of weeks ago. In fact, I think it was last week that they were rumored to get him, but that deal looks like is now off. So yeah, it's pretty clear that they feel like maybe Yarbrough is not the future for this team. But obviously now that deal didn't quite materialize. That maybe can send a message to William Yarbrough that yeah, he needs to have a decent season. He needs to have a bounce back season. He needs to prove to the organization that he is the right player for this team. Because I think for William Yarbrough, he's kind of smacked down right in the middle of the row in terms of being a goalkeeper in terms of ranking where each goalkeeper is in this league. I mean, he's a decent goalkeeper, but there's also times where he makes some boneheaded mistake, and that's something that I think he's got to have to eliminate if he is going to let this organization trust him that he is going to be the regular starting goalkeeper for this season and also for the season after that. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not if Yarbrough can have a bounce back season after last year was not a great season for his stature. But yeah, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the season preview? If you're a Colorado Rapids fan, what do you think is some of the three big questions? Oh, by the way, I just realized I forgot to talk about the strength and weakness. I didn't even write that on the board. I mean, the strength of this team, I think it could be in the midfield and maybe even in the defensive area. I do think that this new look back line is definitely very or this new look back line will definitely have a bounce back year in terms of them conceding less goal. But the weakness for this team is still going to be on the attack, and especially in that number 9 position where, that's still a position that I think, they're just hoping that Kevin Cabral will be that guy to figure out the answer for that number 9 position. But we still don't know if that is the case, because as I mentioned before with Cabral, he's a big gamble, and it's a very high risk, high reward situation that could easily blow up in the Rapids face. So yeah, there you have it. As I said, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the season preview, and do you agree with some of the strength or weakness, or what do you think the strength of weakness is for this Colorado Rapids team if you're a Rapids fan, and also the three big question facing this team for this upcoming season. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys to like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.